Okay, so we're gonna take a look at this thing. This thing over here. Maryland Democrats are pushing a bill to put vending machine condoms in kindergarten. Okay, so I'm a little skeptical of this, and the reason why is so today, this happened a little bit earlier. There was this other post that was about how the Wisconsin budget recommendations from 2025-2027 is changing the word mother to inseminated person. And so at like face value, that's kind of ridiculous. But looking more into the actual text of it, it's actually talking about artificial insemination. So like, if you think about it, and I'm just trying to be fair here, guys, if you're thinking about it, there would be a distinction legally, right? So again, it's a little weird to call, like, you know, obviously in all terms, if you were to say mother is an inseminated person, that's kind of fucking weird. Right, but when you're talking like legalese, they have to actually have terms like this. And I know it's kind of ridiculous, but like you have to have terms that specify, like, basically in terms of like adoption, not really adoption, what's the word? Surrogacy. In terms of surrogacy, there would be some kind of language that you would use. Again, I don't know the full context of this. I'm giving you, this is just a snippet of the actual thing. I guess we could look up the whole thing. Let's see, section 3106. So this is sorry, this is Wisconsin. Let me see if I can find something on it. So like, I see people are upset about it, but what's the actual text involved? We have a little bit here on the actual right here. Okay. If under, okay, so this is Wisconsin section 3106 here. So this is about specifically artificial insemination in the if with the spouse's consent, a person is inseminated artificially as provided in par with semen donated by a person. Oh, I see. Yeah, this is, yeah, who is not the spouse of the person being inseminated. The spouse of the inseminated person at the time of conception, the child shall be a natural parent. At the time of conception, the child shall be the natural parent. Hold on, wait. Okay. Is inseminated artificially with semen donated by a person who is not the spouse of the person being inseminated. The spouse of the inseminated person at the time of conception shall be the natural parent of the child conceived. Okay. So I think two things can be true at once. One is that, so the purpose of this bill, I think, is to clarify the language or whatever. It's to clarify the language in terms of when there's artificial insemination, like who would be counted as the mother, who would be counted as the parent of the person. So here it says right here that that the spouse, okay, hold on, donated by a man who is not the person who is not the spouse of the inseminated person at the time of the conception shall be the natural parent of the child conceived. The spouse of the inseminated person at the time of the conception of the child shall be the. So basically, that the actual parent of the child would not be the donor. Would not be the donor. It would not be the donor. It would be the actual. It would be the spouse. Does that make sense? That's what they're trying to say with this. And like, you know, whether or not you agree with that, I think that's a separate issue from, I guess, wokeness. But again, two things can be true at the same time. There is language here that is kind of interesting, like them removing like man to person who is not the husband. They're clearly trying to do that as well. So it is both at the same time, right? Because there is language here in which that they are trying to be more neutral. I'm assuming because this probably comes up a lot with probably gay couples and trans couples, I'm guessing, is why they're changing this language. It probably, this specific case probably is more common, right? And I'm guessing that's why they're doing this. This is literally legalese to have people making trouble by putting out gender-specific identifiers in law. That is possible as well. What, Shy? That is possible as well. Yeah, that's true. It could be to make the law even more tight. I see what you mean by that. True, because then they might try to argue, especially using like a lot of the using more of like kind of modern language. They could try to weasel out of this based on whatever whether or not you agree with it, or regardless of if you agree with it or not, they could use that language, that kind of like neo, like, Tumblr language, in order to try to weasel out of this in like a legal sense. Yeah, to have less wiggle room. Yeah, exactly. That is entirely possible. Anyway, so let's, again, that's why I wanted to bring it up, because we're looking at another video and I want to think about it like critically, even if people don't agree with me on it, I want to think about it critically. I was just commenting that inseminated person sounds awful, because it does. You guys like my Mau gif? She's a good girl. I love her. But this is how I felt when I read this. So anyway, I did provide the context later as an update. Anyway, so again, I just wanted to bring that up before I go into this. So let's see what they actually mean. I'm gonna look at it fairly.
The Maryland State House advancing a bill that would permit condoms to be sold in vending machines on public school campuses, including preschools. Republicans in the legislature say it's going.
Well, okay. So if you were going to make it legal, so I'm against that, by the way. I don't think school should have anything sexual related like in this way. That's kind of fucking weird. But you can make an argument that, oh, well, it's to make it so kids are safe, and people will make this argument. I'm personally against it, but I can see the argument. And then if that's the case, let's assume that that did get voted on, and that was going to be, or whatever, that actually became law, that condoms would be allowed in if the terminology is that it would be allowed in public schools, then that would then make that also true for preschool, regardless of if they're going to do it or not. It looks like broad language is being deliberately misinterpreted. Well, again, it would lead to that, right? Regardless of if you believe it or not, regardless of if you agree with it or not, that if they were to add vending machines with condoms in them in public schools, again, that would also apply to like lesser grades, unless they specifically had language, because then they would need to add language to the bill specifically to say, oh, it's not allowed in, K through 12 and preschool. They would have to like specifically exclude those. If they would have to specifically exclude those, or alternatively, they could say that that's only allowed in high school, right? So yeah. Anyway,
too far. Maryland State.
Why in the first place? I mean, there's arguments behind it. Ones I don't. Okay. I'm a devil's advocate this a bit. This is the argument I assume that they're gonna say. They're gonna say, and again, I'm not making this argument personally. This is what I believe a person who is for this would say. They would say that we need to encourage kids, because kids are gonna have sex anyway. People in high school are gonna have sex anyway. We need to head that off, prevent pregnancy and STDs by making condoms more readily available. And how better to make it more readily available than to put them in the vending machines at school, right? That would be basically what their argument would be, I think. Wait, what happened? What are you talking about? Why do you care about kids having sex? What are you? Oh, I see. You're just a fucking dickhead. I'm just gonna ban you. You have no purpose. Yeah, I wasn't even making that argument. They're basically saying that, yeah, I mean, you should have been faster, Julio. I don't know what to tell you. They're basically just insulting me and saying that, why do I want kids to have sex so much? I didn't even say that. If you think that that was my opinion, then you just have low IQ. I don't know what to tell you. You're just retarded. Sorry. I was basically, I was basically steel manning what I think other people's arguments would be. It's not even what I don't think this should be allowed personally. But again, I'm trying to put myself in the frame of reference of a person that would argue for it and assume what their argument would be. I was gonna like kind of debate with them, but then I realized it was a waste of time. Vincent DeFash says that vending machines is probably a bit too much. Maybe a dispenser in the nurse's office in high schools would be more fitting. Yeah, I mean, like even that I'm not really for. I don't think the schools really have any personally. I don't think they should have like anything to do with this. I think that should be like a thing with like parents or something like that. But again, other people would make the argument, well, kids are gonna do it anyway. You might as well help them out. Might as well help them out, do it safely. That's what I assume someone who was for it would agree, would argue. And again, that's not my argument. I'm not a fan of that. But anyway.
Delegate Kathy Szeliga is calling on parents to wake up, and she joins us now. So here's what Maryland Department of Legislative Services says about this bill that's making its way through the State House. This bill repeals the misdemeanor prohibition against an associated penalty for selling or offering for sale a contraceptive or contraceptive device by means of a vending machine or other automatic device at a kindergarten, nursery school, elementary school, or secondary school. And I think a lot of people at home are saying, what?
All of us on that. Well,
a little bit of a tangent, but one thing that upsets me is that every day that I exist and every day that every day longer that I'm on the internet, I start to realize just like how fucking dumb people are, and it's fucking crazy. It drives me like insane. Like I have existential crisis over it. Like I mull about this like at night, like I'll think about it and I'll be like, man, people are fucking stupid. Like that guy that was in chat earlier, and it fucking bothers me. I'm like, how can you be that dumb? Like, how is it possible? Like, how do people like that exist? It bothers me.
Most of us on the House
like, dude, it's the water. It's turning our brains gay.
Said exactly
just like
that.
The frogs. It's turning our brains into gay frogs.
What is this? So we offered an amendment.
No. Actually, you know whose fault it is? That was a joke. I didn't really mean that. What it really is the guy who fucking made the unleaded. He made the leaded gasoline, the tetraethyl lead that like they burned off and it's like in the atmosphere, like making everyone freaking stupid.
$13.37. Unfathomably base text 2.
Imagine a person of average intelligence.
Guys. Thank you. I really appreciate it, man. Thank you.
The population
Thank you for the tip, dude.
Lull.
Thank you. Thank you for the bits, Yoshi. Thank you. Imagine the person of dude. That's crazy. Like, it's so bad,
Life's
dude.
a long trip on a short bus. Everyone is retarded.
It's starting to feel that way, man.
Nursery school, elementary school.
What? Hold on, wait, what? Wait, so the actual... Wait a minute. Is that the actual...
Republicans in the legislature say it's going too far. Maryland State Delegate Kathy Szeliga is calling on parents to wake up, and she joins us now. So here's what Maryland Department of Legislative Services says about this bill that's making its way through the State House.
Wait, is this what they're saying? Wait, who said it? Who's saying it?
Here's what Maryland Department of Legislative Services
is this true?
Says about this bill that's making its way through the State House. This bill repeals the misdemeanor
Maryland Department of Legislative Services, okay.
Prohibition against an associated penalty for selling or offering for sale a contraceptive or contraceptive device by means of a vending machine or...
What? Wait, so they hold on. They specified kindergarten, nursery school, and elementary school? They specified it in the bill. Why? Like, my only guess is some schools are combo schools. You know what I mean? Like, some of the schools are like combined, right? Like, you have, especially like kind of more in like the countryside, you have cases where like a elementary school and like, you know, elementary, middle, and like high school are like the same campus, right? So is that why they did that for those specific cases?
Or other automatic device at a kindergarten, nursery school.
Because the problem is like then you have the issue that then you have the issue that like people are going to use this to put them in the other, like, regardless, right? Because the law isn't like as tight. I can see them saying like, well, it doesn't matter because we're not going to do it anyway, but we know that they do it. Whenever they say we're not going to do it anyway, they're definitely going to fucking do it at some point in the future.
Elementary school or secondary school. And I think a lot of people at home are saying, what?
All of us on that, well, most of us on the House floor said exactly that. What is this? So we offered an amendment on the bill on second reading, when you can amend a bill, to just say, look, just high schools. You know, we wouldn't like that either.
That's kind of my take on it too. I don't like it either. But if you're gonna have this bill, you might as well just, you know.
Republicans.
See, that's my guess though. Like, you know, again, I'm trying to be fair, right? My guess is the reason they wanted the broad reading, the reason they wanted the broad language is so that you don't get in trouble if like the campus is a combination school, high school and middle school, because then it would make it illegal to have it because the campus is still technically a middle school.
And the Maryland Freedom Caucus would not like that, but they rejected it.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of schools that are teaching abstinence, right?
Well,
Again, I'm trying to be fair. I think that would be the argument against it.
And,
right.
you know, maybe abstinence until marriage in a best case scenario, or maybe just abstinence until you're in college, but to put condoms in a vending machine puts it right there in front of you. But why?
Yeah.
What justification is there for doing this?
It like kind of normalizes it to have it in a vending machine, right?
At a nursery school or a kindergarten. I mean, unless you just want to make a very broad brush law that doesn't take a lot.
You want to play Mecha Break Extraction later? I might play if you want.
To interpret it. Let's say, put it that way.
It makes no sense whatsoever. And, you know, the intent may have at some point been high school, but when they rejected our move,
I don't know, man.
To just make it high school again, I like you.
It feels like someone is misleading this intentionally solely. What do you mean, Tazuto? It feels like someone somewhere is misleading this intentionally. Wait, what do you mean? Farback says, if you want a balanced take on this, read this as historical context. Okay. I can't. I'm not subscribed. I can't read it. This has like one of those subscription walls. Farback.
I would say you're discriminating against traditional families that don't want their 14-year-old daughter going to a high school and walking down the hall in front of a sex vending machine.
Right.
But, you know, putting this in a daycare or nursery school and, you know, into a preschool, I am a grandmother of two beautiful 10 and 7-year-old girls, and I can't imagine them walking down the hall and seeing.
Tazuto says because the right is heavily against teaching or knowing about sex of any kind at that age. I think the argument from the right actually there, Tazuto, is that people on the right don't think that the teachers and that the school system should have anything to do with it. That it should be strictly parents that teach their kids about something as sensitive as that. That's the argument. Well, one thing I noticed a lot is that I feel like a lot of people don't understand, like, a lot of people don't even understand what the right position is on things. Again, like, you can see me like rationalizing out like what I believe the position on the left would be, but a lot of the times I feel like people on the left don't even know what the right people on the right's position is. Like, most of the time, it's like a completely like it's an argument that has nothing to do with what the majority opinion is on the right in the first place.
Seeing a colorful Condom
The argument behind sex ed is that public school teachers and like the the public education should have nothing to do with that, and it should be the parents who decide how kids should be educated on that. That's the argument.
vending machine with condoms.
Do you see any school with a high school section? I guess they could have said specific. Yeah, true. They could have done that too. Yeah, that's true. But again, that's a little advanced, right? Like it's a little bit advanced, and I guess they're worried. Like again, like just playing devil's advocate there, they would say like, well, it puts teachers at risk or something. It puts the legislation of the school at risk. This is what they would say basically. It would put them at risk of getting in trouble due to technicalities.
Things in it, and then having to have a
so here's what you're missing. Okay, so Farback says here's the context. Historical context in Maryland is that the misdemeanor criminal penalty of $1,000 for selling condoms at school from a long time ago, and now Democrats are trying to remove that ban. Whether it's good or bad, that's really up to the reader to decide. Okay, that seems to be exactly what we're talking about. Actually, I don't think there was any misunderstanding here. I mean, I guess we didn't know about the penalty being $1,000 specifically, but the actual it is what we're talking about.
conversation with a 7-year-old. Mom, what's a condom? What's in that machine?
Well, maybe they're thinking if we run out of balloons to make balloon animals, we just go to the vending machine. So here's what Maryland State Delegate Nicole Williams said, trying to justify the move.
Look at a fucking balloon dog, a balloon sword out of a condom.
Listen here.
It's not dictating what school systems should and shouldn't do. It's not mandating anybody to do anything or suggesting that they should do something.
Okay.
It's just removing a criminal penalty.
But the thing is again, if you do that, then it could happen, and it probably will. So even if this bill doesn't necessarily mandate
It's not that we want to do this thing, we just want it to be legal for some reason.
Exactly. Exactly. Thank you for the bits. Thank you. Exactly.
The sky is not going to fall if we pass this bill.
I guess what she's saying there is it's not.
Guys, I've just seen this so many times. Thank you, Renee. Thank you so much for the follow. I've seen this so many times where they're like, oh, we don't really want to do that. So what are you worried about? Because we're not going to do that. And then literally like the law changes and they exactly do that.
Like you're going to suddenly see condoms at preschool. It just removes the criminal penalty, and then schools are free to do what they want to do with this.
Well, that's how they start, right, John? They start by saying, oh, don't object to this. But in the meantime, there was another bill on the Health and Government Operations Committee to put Plan B, birth control pills, all kinds of things in high schools. So, they're playing chess. Plan, first move, we remove the penalties so we can get the vending machine in the high school and other schools as well. And then next year, they're going to come back and they're going to put birth control pills, Plan B, condoms,
Obviously, they would do this. If their plan was to put vending machines in to sell like kind of sex promoting stuff, then yeah, they would do that. And again, like their argument is probably like, this is a good thing. It's a good thing because you can't stop kids. This isn't my argument. This is what I think their argument is you can't stop kids from doing this. So they might as well be safe about it. And we might as well make it as easy as possible for them to partake in activities safely.
As I told them on the House floor, next year you'll come back to regulate it.
Yeah.
I mean, this is how it works.
And all of this at the same time as they're also taking away a parental opt-out provision for education about gender identity in schools, too. So, and then we'll keep watching your Safe Girls in Sports bill, which you've been trying to advance. We're watching what's going on in Maine. And in fact, State Delegate Laurel Libby will be joining us next hour to talk about that. Kathy Szeliga, great to meet you.
Great to meet you.
Thanks
for having me on.
Really appreciate it. All right, both families and farmers feeling the impact of the bird flu. We'll have more on that coming up a little bit later. Meantime, let's go to Sandra.
Yeah, I mean, it is exactly what I thought it was in this case. So that is kind of interesting. So they're not. So the the bill doesn't. So in this case here, it's a little bit different. What Libs of TikTok is saying here is not exactly 100% true. Is that the bill is to put vending machines in condoms? It's just to make it not illegal. So they could do it if they wanted. But the bill itself is not like trying to mandate it or anything like that. But it probably would lead to it eventually, is my guess.